Today we're going to talk about mocktails and low or no alcohol drinks. So are they truly a healthier option is the question we are going to discuss. So I'm going to kick it to Bryce. He's got an article that he's going to talk about.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we pulled up a couple articles that are just talking about how this is a growing trend in 2024 and really talking about why is the mindset shifting around alcohol. And it's just saying that younger generations are starting to have more of a focus on health and wellness, a fear of negative effects. Drinking is expensive, just from a weight management perspective. And then also just starting to learn more about how does it reduce the risk of disease. So those motivations combined with just fewer barriers, right? There's becoming more non-alcoholic options. I think the social pressure, as you've mentioned before, is starting to change a little bit, where I know I was recently at a get together where I haven't been drinking in 2024 and everyone was like, hey, that's really cool. And I'm just not sure that, 10 years ago with my group of friends that will be put to the test in July of this year, I'm not sure that would have been the response. It would have been like, come on, man, we're all together, we're having fun. And it definitely, we're 36 years old now. We're not 21 years old. But it was pretty cool. Everyone just said, hey, I'm proud of you. You made the decision that was best for you. And it seems like there's a lot of other people across the country that are following in the same path. So it's cool that the barriers are coming down for people to have, had the same social experiences without feeling like anything's missing. Yeah.
I mean, I know, I get terrible sleep when I drink. So I do think people are like a lot of like the Aura Ring or the Whoops, or like you're starting to kind of make sense of what are activities that I do that make me feel a certain way. And then there's some data to back it up. So if you're somebody that does track your sleep or your recovery, I know when I did the Aura Ring, it was very clear that I did not get good sleep on the nights that I drank, whether that was wine or Prosecco or a margarita. So I do think, people are just becoming more self-aware of how it impacts their health.
Yeah. I think even outside of some of the diseases that it mentioned, some of the other studies just say alcohol consumption drives up gut inflammation, leaky gut bacterial overgrowth, some words that I don't know how to pronounce. So I might have to kick it over to Devan on some of this stuff, but also just talks about recovery and sleep as well. Yeah. So those are outside of some of the diseases that happen over time, that those are some of the things that can happen more quickly.
So I think obviously the growing trend is these mocktails or these non-alcoholic drinks. And I think the question is that healthier? And I think it all goes back to what's the sugar content, what's the ingredients in it. But it is socially hard for people to be at an event and maybe not have something, because it is drinking is social. And, it can be challenging, to give that up and not really have a plan in those settings. Yeah. So you do like non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah. Well, I like the taste of beer. Yeah. And so there's also some of the habit of, if you're at a social gathering, to just be kind of hanging around, sipping on something. And I like the taste of beer, but it doesn't necessarily have to be alcoholic for me anymore. And I basically, the article was talking about, well, are the non-alcoholic drinks healthier? And it's saying, well, if you were going to drink the same amount, if you remove the alcohol from it, then yes, it is healthier. Now, if I was going to go to the same get together and just hammer water, or anything else that's a better option, then I'm not really even sure what the ingredients are within beer, but water's clearly healthier. But if you're comparing the alcohol to the non-alcohol, then yes, the science says that it is a healthier option.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a topic that I've had to observe my whole life. My parents abusing alcohol in a really kind of aggressive way. And I've always wanted to eliminate everything that doesn't help me personally evolve. And Morgan knows, like, I have an addictive personality. And so I have a really interesting relationship with alcohol. I think the end game for me is I probably just need to stop altogether. And, I've had periods of time where I've done that. Bryce, I think what you're doing is super admirable. It's hard to do. God, it's awesome. I mean, drinking's awesome. Like, it is. Like, let's be honest. That's why everybody does it, because it's like fun and you have a lot of fun doing it. It's something you could easily get addicted to. And I just watch my dad especially just every day wake up and the first thing that he thought about wasn't his family. The first, he loved us, but the first thing that he thought about was, how can I get a drink? Because I got to get to even before I can start my day. And, you know, watching that growing up and watching him be, and my mom be like almost like just like a slave to it. Like, just everything that they did revolved around how could I catch a buzz first. And so, you know, there's been periods of time, like when we moved into a new house during like 2020 in the summer, where I started increasing and I actually intentionally was like, this new house is great. We're going to have lots of fun here. We're going to have lots of parties and lots of people are going to come over. And that environment, I started noticing like I would slowly start drinking a little bit more and a little bit more. It's never gotten close to the line. I know the line. I've watched the line my whole life. So I'm far, far away from the line. But when you notice yourself getting closer to the line, like you notice that, man, this is not helping me evolve. I'm my workouts are suffering, my recovery's suffering. The things that are actually serving me that I enjoy intrinsically, you know, my yoga, my workouts, my runs. Morgan knows I like to run. Yeah, those things start to suffer, and you know, and so I think most recently, as I probably inevitably at some point will just set it down altogether. It's been like, don't own it and try to just, you know, when you're out with a friend or when you're somewhere socially, it's been kind of acceptable to me in this season of life, but I'm trying not to own it at the house. And therefore, like, you know, there's a couple times it's like on a Friday night, have a couple beers and watch a movie, you know, and just you're chilling out and you're relaxing. But like, is it really necessary? Like, if you looked at yourself like from like the shadow point of view behind you, you're sitting there alone watching a movie, getting drunk by yourself. It's like, yeah, that's a prerequisite to some type of problem down the road somewhere. And so I'm just very self-aware and acutely aware of that habit, especially. And just, I don't think it's for me in the long run. I'm actually really inspired by Bryce. I did 90 days at the end of last year without touching alcohol, and it was the best I've ever felt. But I need to stop saying 90 days, or I need to stop, because I've done that for a couple years in a row. I need to stop that, because then when I got to January, it was like, all right, it is on now for like the first couple weekends in January. And, you know, there's like nothing more unhealthy than alcohol. Like, let's put it that way. Like, the reason non-alcoholic beverages are better than alcoholic beverages, because alcohol is freaking poison. Like, it's literal poison. You can easily overdose and die on alcohol, and people do it all the time. It's like, it's poison for the human body. And so, you know, I'm not here to preach anything, but I think if you were to just say, okay, maybe it's somewhere in between of quitting completely and being a like raging alcoholic, probably like somewhere 1 to 3 times occurrences a month is a healthy place to be at, where every other weekend you might have a Saturday where you have a handful of drinks, not the whole bottle or anything. But, you know, this is a interesting relationship with me and alcohol that, you know, Morgan knows intimately about as well. And she watched it her whole life too, from a lot of different angles with my family. So
I think the line with alcohol is very different for different people. So I think it's really hard to put a number of how many weekends are going to be the safe place for people to kind of like include in their lifestyle. But I know that I love the fact that you are standing strong in this, and you've been in social situations where people are more accepting, because I've been in social situations where I have felt like the outsider because I chose not to have a drink or a cocktail. And that's where I do think the mocktails can kind of be a healthier option, because it almost puts other people that may have an issue with it at ease to see a drink in your hand. I know I've gone to a bar many times when I've been out and said, make me a water, but make it look like a cocktail, just because I don't want to make other people feel uncomfortable. But I know that that's not the choice that I need to be making. That's the healthy decision for myself. And I will speak as the oldest one in the crowd here. It definitely starts to affect you more and more, and your recovery takes such a dive. And you're already talking about sleep, that it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you notice your workouts and are starting to decline, and you notice that like your body doesn't recover. You retain water for a full week after having too many. You know, the reward is just not worth what you're having to, the sacrifice that you're making with it a lot of times. And I'm, you know, I'm not saying that I'm never having a drink again, or I'm going to just went on a vacation this past week. I had a couple, but definitely you start to see the negative effects of it a little bit quicker as you get older. So it's like, that's where I feel like the mocktails kind of can be the healthier option. And sometimes when you think you want to drink, and I know this for me personally, and I can't speak for anybody that struggles with alcoholism. That's, that's not my wheelhouse, but sometimes I need something in a pretty glass.
Yeah.
And it really does satisfy.
It does
really, really does. Like whether you're pouring a sparkling water in a glass with a sprig of mint in it, it's just something to hold, kind of satisfies that urge.
Yeah.
Where maybe you really didn't want the alcohol. You just wanted something to kind of like satisfy that. So that's where I do think mocktails and things like that can't be the healthier option.
Yeah.
No, everybody's journey is different, but I will just touch on when he said, hey, I did 90 days. Appreciate you saying you're inspired by what I'm doing, but also those 90 days is what kicked it off for me, because I gave it some time. I forget if I did 90 or maybe even just a month, but I took that into the holidays when you were doing it, and I had a handful of drinks. And now I could contrast of how good I was feeling. And then even just 2-3 days of just, hey, it's Christmas time, family, friends are around, just having a couple beers. I went into work the next week and just didn't. For me, I think it might be a gut thing. Like just looking at the signs, I don't know that, but for me, it's just, how do I feel? How quick is my brain working? But that's really what kicked it off, because I did that time frame where I wasn't drinking. And then when I really thought about, man, how am I feeling when I just had a couple drinks? I said, what if I, instead of saying, hey, I'm taking 30 days off, what if I just say, don't drink?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the mindset that flipped for me. And I also just heard from people that they just said, well, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
And so
I'm on a 30-day streak,
Yeah.
so we'll see how long I last.
Cool.
30 days, no
Good for
drinks.
you.
Nice.
And I feel great. I feel like I'm sleeping better. My skin is clear. I'm not as bloated. So I'm excited to see what 90 days can do, because every other time I've not drank, it's because I got a baby in my belly. And that just does a lot of different things to your body. So
You know what I struggle with that is like when I put an end date on something, I think, and Devin, you touched on this too. Like when you set 90 days, it's like, then I want to just go off the rails with it, you know?
I'm not
So it's
putting
like,
pressure on myself.
It's like almost like you want to tell your mind, hey, I can have a drink if I want to drink, but do I really want the drink?
That's what I'm trying to do, right? Like just assess it day by day, event by event. And,
I love that.
And if I want one, I'll have one. And if I want to just keep not drinking, then I'll probably be better off. So yeah, I love mocktails here and there. I love I love a good girls' night where they have a mocktail menu. Cause then again, like you do feel like it's that special occasion. So
And for those of you who are listening who might be internally struggling with alcohol, and you might be thinking like, is this a problem for me? Like, is this like becoming something that I should pay attention to? The answer is probably yes, if you're thinking about it that way, because it's very, very sneaky, isn't it? If you have like, okay, so in America, they recommend 2 drinks for a man, about 12 ounces, and 1 drink for a woman per day is considered healthy. Now, if you do that, then you're drinking every day, then you're going to have those like physiological effects of being sluggish and blah, blah, blah. Could it be healthy? Or maybe that's defined as like not dangerous. Sure. And I'm not here to judge. Listen, I don't care. Like do you and whatever your goals in life are, make sure that you're aligned in your behaviors with those goals. But I will tell you that those that drink every day that had come to me in focus meetings in the past, and just said, I'm not an alcoholic, but I drink more than I think I should. Maybe just give yourself some time to see, like Bryce's point around contrast. Just experiment a little bit. If you think you're having a problem with it, take 30 days, even though it is a countdown, and you might start up 30 days again later. Like if you're not fully blown and a full blown alcoholic, and and you're thinking that it might be a problem, well, give yourself 30 days, see how you feel. And then, you might have the same mindset as Morgan, just take it on a day by day basis, because it's not serving me anyway. So I know there's a lot of people out there that, consume alcohol and it starts to creep up on them, and it can be very dangerous if you don't regret what you do the night before, right? Like you actually are functioning alcoholic, and that might be the most dangerous thing you could be. I watched my mom and dad do that pretty much their whole lives.